Hello and welcome to On the Corner, the official podcast of pitcherlist.com. I'm your host, Eric Samulski, joined as always, fresh off the list, which you can watch him create on playback.tv/pitcherlist. It's Nick Pollack. Nick, hello, sir.
What is happening? How you doing, Eric?
I'm good. How are you?
I am very good. And we have a little bit early today because you might have a special dinner tonight that we hope goes well.
Hoping to see a friend tonight. Yeah, it'll be, we'll see how it goes. But busy day. I told you before, I was on Rates and Barrels before this, chatting with Eno about you. It's my first time on Rates and Barrels. That was awesome.
That's the first time, really? I expected you to just be there all the time. Oh man, you guys should definitely listen to that because, of course, Eric is always a great listen.
It was a lot of fun. And obviously, Eno and I both do podcasts with you, so we were just, talking about how great a guy you are and how busy you are.
I just got to steal Derek now, I
know. And not so busy, not only just in fantasy baseball content, but you're venturing into video games. Is that what's happening?
Well, I mean, we'll see. I have designed a baseball mobile game, and this is something it's been in my mind for a long time, and I finally realized a good path to making it come to fruition. So actually, if anyone listening right now is a solo mobile dev, I want to talk to you because I think this really works, and I've actually talked to a couple people in the industry who are already on the lookout for people for me because they actually want this made. So it's pretty exciting, and come reach out. You can reach out at support, or actually just reach out at podcast@pitcherlist.com. That works. Let's just go with support@pitcherlist.com. I'll see it faster then. You want me right away. So yeah, support@pitcherlist.com. If you or someone that you know would be a good match to work on a pitcherless baseball game.
It sounds exciting. Pitcherless baseball game. I would play. I'm I'm not good at the mobile gaming. I'm not gonna lie.
Right. I get it.
I grew up in a console era. I'm a console guy. And I'm also not a console guy anymore because my son is too young for video games and I don't have a lot of free time. But I'm excited to one day go back to being a console guy when I can get him hooked on the game.
First game's got to be NBA Jam, of course.
Yeah, obviously that's going to be number one for sure. And then maybe get him into MLB The Show so I can stay up at 3 a.m. for no reason whatsoever.
Or the pitcherless baseball game. We'll see. Yes. But we got a list today.
We got a list today, and obviously, we're gonna make this list. The theme is gonna be video games. We were chatting about it. We both love video games. You've got the next hot hit on your hands. So video games is our theme.
Lovely.
Right. We're gonna start with tier number 1, starting pitcher number 1, Tarek Skubal. Number 2, Zach Wheeler. Number 3, Paul Skeens. Number 4, Garrett Crochet. Number 5, Jacob deGrom. Number 6, Max Fried. What's this tier called? Why is it called that?
Oh man, I'm gonna say The Legend of Zelda because they don't miss. They don't miss. It's just always this is the best. And it's actually kind of interesting because you do have the Switch 2 coming out this week, and I'm not getting it right away because there's no new Zelda game that matters. So I'm just not. I'll just wait.
I have not played Zelda since the original Zelda. Not gonna lie.
Like the one that's just called The Legend of Zelda, or are you talking about Ocarina of Time?
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the one that's called The Legend of Zelda.
Oh wow. Okay, so there is a nice age gap we're seeing right now.
Well, also it's also a gaming gap. Like I just I played a lot of sports games in college and then a few role-playing games after, like we talked about, big into Grand Theft Auto, Assassin's Creed, all that kind of stuff. And then I would say for the last decade, it's been a lot of nothing for me.
Well, the tier number 1 is a whole lot of nothing to Movement Say for Crochet over deGrom, which I think that everyone understand. And I want to make clear, I'm still in on selling Garrett Crochet. I still feel that there are signs here of something not being quite the same as last year. At the same time, he has made up for that with improved cutters and sweepers, which is great. I still have a little bit of worry that he isn't the same person from last year. And it's one of those things, you just make a lateral deal. You don't need to sell 90 cents on the dollar. I'm not trying to tell you to do that. I'm saying, hey, look, you have an opportunity here to sell and be away from the the potential risk, I think, is higher than just like the normal injury thing that we talk about with everybody else.
Yeah, we talked about this last week. You're talking about a legitimate sell high, like actually getting like a first round asset back for a first round asset, not trying to get something less than.
Exactly.
So yes, I get that. Tier number 2 starts with number 7, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, number 8, Joe Ryan, number 9, Logan Webb, number 10, Chris Sale, number 11, Brian Woo, number 12, Robbie Ray, number 13, Carlos Rodon. What's this tier called? Why is it called that?
This one is going to be let's go with the Doom series. Okay. Because, you know, we know that is it is rock solid, but there are sometimes where it's like, well, Doom 3, what's going on? And it sometimes changes up, you know, sometimes a little bit different than you expect. Like Doom Eternal was, whoa, that's a way different way of playing. But no, it's these guys you can always depend on. You know, it's always going to be there. They're going to be legends of your leagues.
I love all these guys. You got some comments in the playback chat at the very end about thanking you for being on Robbie Ray. And yeah, Robbie Ray was one of those guys we talked about before. You know, the hamstring injury at the end of last year, I think kind of like made him seem more injury plagued coming into this year than had he just missed the start of last season with Tommy John. And we will talk about this later on in the episode for one of the other pitchers. But I think it's a really good example of like the pitcher coming back from injury who pitched a little bit the year before versus the pitcher coming back from injury, right? And Robbie Ray was healthy and back injury after the All-Star break last year. The hamstring injury cost him time, but like we saw him on the mound. We saw him back. We saw him throwing. And maybe that made him a little bit more easy to depend on than somebody like Sandy Alcantara, who we did not actually see throw. And, you know, he was kind of like figuring it out and getting healthy as this year has gone on, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I do want to say at the very least, like Robbie Ray could very well not be as good moving forward now, right? We had a series of starts where he was throwing too many fastballs, wasn't relying on his secondaries. We just saw a start of 12 whiffs on the changeup. And honestly, it's hard for me to really give aces going to ace with the Marlins on the other side of it, especially if you're a lefty against the Marlins, which is easier. Mm-hmm. And now he has the Padres. And you know what? I do have some regrets of giving him aces going to ace before the Padres game. I should have just said next one and we're good. At the same time, I think anyone who has Robbie Ray now is just thinking like, how could I possibly bench him? And that's really the feeling that I have for this. But I do want to, you know, I want to at least say I was not thinking that Robbie Ray is a top 10, top 15 guy in the preseason. And I do expect him to have some bumps in the road moving forward. That said, his skill set is kind of consistent, save for that anomaly that is just weird. And I don't expect to come back at the beginning of the year. So like, yeah, this is a guy who should be producing consistently.
Yep. On a good team, on a good park. And so it all works.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that works in tier number 3 as well, starting with number 14, Pablo Lopez, number 15, Hunter Green, number 16, Hunter Brown, number 17, Jesus Luzardo, number 18, Chris Bubich, number 19, Spencer Schwellenbach, and number 20, Spencer Strider. You love the back-to-back same names.
Oh, yeah, you know, it's totally intentional.
It is. It is.
Absolutely.
What's the tier called and why is it called that?
All right. Tier 3, I would say it's a tier of looking on the outside looking in. And I would say it's a Sonic the Hedgehog tier because let's be honest, you are not Super Mario. Okay. And if anyone from Brooklyn, it's Mario, but because we all know someone named Mario here. All right. But I did growing up, but these are the guys that we feel are amazing and great and going to be rostered, but they're, you know, you look at kind of the whole resume and you're like, well, hold on a second. Those weren't so great.
Sure.
And there are reasons for all of them not to be aces. I mean, obviously you have Luzardo just doing what he did. And I'm sick and tired of talking about Hunter Brown and stuff. I still haven't heard quite the contrarian point to what I keep making about his arsenal. And no one can really say like, no, this is it. Because he just went 3 pitches, you realize, in his last start, Eric. Hunter Brown had like a 45% strike rate on his 4-seamer. Worse.
We talked about how the last episode we said, is he going to tinker again? And you know, we've seen it from him before. We'll see.
Yeah. Good. Thank you for not letting me do that because I just said I didn't want to talk about him. So good. I appreciate you.
It is wild if you would have told me at the beginning of the season we'd be talking about Chris Bubich in the top 20, I would have said, "Wow, okay." But
Yep.
yeah, it's earned for sure.
I mean, that's why we do that, right? That's why we have all these guys in the 50s or so at the beginning of the year, because you can see the starts where it does all work. And it's right. There was that four-seamer upstairs. He had 93-mile-per-hour four-seamers as a reliever last year. We expected a dip in it, and we did for a bit. But now we actually do see Chris Bubich at 93 and locating well. Changeup is getting down. It's effective. The breaking balls are doing great things too. It all does work when it works. It's just about, all right, can you do this often? And Bubich is doing that. Also, keep in mind that four-seamer, he has above average extension. He has, I think it's 18 inches of vert. And he has a more than flat arm angle as well. So all of those things combined to make that a very good fastball upstairs.
I would have loved to have taken more Bubich at the end of the season and not as much, or at the end of the draft season. And not as much Jack Leiter and Max Meyer, who've been fine, but not quite this level. Tier number 4. So, well, also Spencer Schwellenbach hitting 100, baby, that last outing.
Yeah, that was cool.
Woof.
What's also really weird? I mean, how would you describe Spencer Schwellenbach entering this season?
Young pitcher, deep pitch mix, can kind of mix.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Eric. I mean, as far as his arsenal goes, how would you describe his arsenal? From like what's good, what's bad?
That's a really good question. It would not have been four-seam fastball or velocity early on.
No.
That would not have been. Have been maybe the third thing I mentioned.
I mean, right. It was that his secondaries were really good, and he's playing the game of keep away with his four-seamer because that's the pitch that gets hit. And
he could go 3 pitches to hitters of each-handedness and kind of like,
Right. But what is he doing?
Not dominant fastball.
Yeah,
foundational fastball.
That's like it right now. It's like, what? You're the absolute opposite of what we expected, but fine. And it's a big question of old skills versus new skills kind of thing. And things are going to change. This is not who Spencer Schwellenbach will be throughout the year. What I'm hoping is that the slider and the cutter curve, those elements really step forward before the four-seamer's effectiveness decreases, because it's going to.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly would not have expected it to be that level right now, and so I think it makes sense to not expect it to be that level going forward, but we'll see. We'll see also about the pitchers in tier number 4, which starts with number 21, Dylan Cease, number 22, Freddie Peralta, number 23, Framber Valdez, number 24, Mackenzie Gore, number 25, Jack Flaherty, number 26, Sonny Gray. What's this tier called? Why is it called that?
This is the Diablo tier, because as you play this game, if you don't know it, it is a loot slot machine, essentially. So you never know where you're going to get. Cherry bomb.
I will say I wound up being wrong on Sonny Gray, and that's okay. I was in on Sonny Gray at the start of the year. I had him ranked higher than you. We talked about like how realistic last year was. And then that report came out in like week 2 of the regular season that he had a PRP injection in his forearm. And last year he was dealing with this forearm soreness that didn't go away in the offseason. And then his velocity was like 89 in his first and second start. Yeah. And I was just like convinced that he was getting hurt. I was just like, this is the biggest,
I would be too. Yeah.
The biggest like red flag of like, sell this, like trade him away. Like this is an injury. And he's just been really solid all year long.
Yeah. Sonny Gray is either going to be Sonny or Gray. It's kind of the thing he's done in his entire career. Even last year, which was very much of an exception of that sweeper being such an absurd put away pitch and the sinker as well backdoor to right-handers. Sonny Gray wasn't always great, even since that PRP injection. And then last 2, he's finally found a sweeper again. And that's really how it goes. Is just, all right, he's going to have some things and they're going to lose others. And unfortunately, he gets the Dodgers this week, but whatever. He is very much of that cherry bomb tier, like Dylan Cease and Freddie Peralta, the Professor Chaos, and Framber Valdez, who, by the way, had like a 4.40 ERA through his first 5 games with a 130 plus whip. And then since then has had like a sub 3 ERA. And, it's like the most Framber Valdez thing. He's going to have those ups and downs.
Complete game, 83 pitches, but he also had 9 strikeouts. So it wasn't even just like soft contact. The dude had 9 strikeouts through a complete game and threw 83 pitches. It's absurd. It's absurd that he did that.
Yep. That's Framber Valdez. He's just, all right, he's going to have that. Then like, it'll be like 5 innings, 4 runs. The next one. It's like, okay, cool. All right, we move on.
Crazy. Good for you, Framber. Tier number 5 starts with number 27, Drew Rasmussen, number 28, Christopher Sanchez, number 29, George Kirby, number 30, Kodai Senga, number 31, Seth Lugo, number 32, Ranger Suarez, and number 33, Clay Holmes. What's this tier called? Why is it called that?
Y'all are going to hate this one. It's solitaire because it's the one that is just the most stable, like, winner. And I think it was the most played video game of the 90s. Was solitaire on Windows PCs.
Was it really? Interesting. Yeah. I've never oh, that's gonna lie. I was gonna say I've never played solitaire on a computer, but I think I might. I'm
sure every single person listening to this podcast right now has done it.
I don't know.
Okay. Anyone over the age of 25?
Sure.
Who's listening?
I think people older have played solitaire more just in person.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. But that was like the only thing you get brought into bring your kid to work day, and you have to sit at their computer, and you're going to play solitaire or that Astra pinball. You know,
that's true. I've definitely played solitaire on like an old desktop with like the huge bulky back.
That's what I'm talking about, Eric.
Unless they had Oregon Trail on that. And
that would have been a Mac probably though. Yeah,
but
oh man, I don't understand why I can't get any more bison. Like that's all I would do.
I don't know why there hasn't been an Oregon Trail movie yet. Like,
oh, that's an interesting point.
I'd pay. I mean, there've been like every Western is kind of like an Oregon Trail movie, but whatever. Just like,
you know how it ends though, right?
Make it actually can you imagine? There's gonna be, the whole like chicken jockey in Minecraft where all the kids go crazy when Jack Black says chicken jockey. If you made an Oregon Trail movie and you just had a character turn at one point and be like, oh, he died of dysentery.
That's what I was going to say.
Just a bunch of 40-year-olds just throwing popcorn in the theater.
That's why I was hoping the movie would end. Just everyone just dies of dysentery. That would be it. And it took me like 10 years later to learn what dysentery was.
Yeah, that's my chicken jockey moment in the theaters.
Also, I did not really know what chicken jockey was, and I imagine a lot of people don't. It's okay. It's fine. Just ignore it.
Yeah, I didn't. I was not a Minecraft person. I didn't until it became a phenomenon, and then I looked it up.
And I also want to tell you guys, we're really sorry. We're getting so tangential today. But in this tier, I think the interesting one is George Kirby. Would you agree?
I would. I was also saying Kirby and Ranger Suarez, who has, done more Ranger Suarez-y things of late and, looked like the pitcher we've always kind of expected him to be. Yeah, Kirby, I don't know, man. The shoulder injury at the start of the year had me kind of off him where like, even if he came back, I was just like, what type of pitcher is he going to be? He's not a guy who makes his hay on velocity where you were like, oh, well, if George Kirby comes back and he doesn't have his velo, like, because of the shoulder, then, he's not going to be effective. But I think it's also a little bit of like, because precision of command is so big for him, nothing that he throws is overpowering. So he really does need to locate really well. Anything that impacts precision and repeatability of mechanics and all that kind of stuff, I think makes it a more of a tightrope for him to walk, because if his secondaries aren't located really well, if the four seamer isn't located really well, like those are things that can it can hurt. And like right now, I mean, last year, the slider for him wasn't a huge swing and miss pitch, just under 12% last year.
Right.
It's under 10% now, but a 63% ICR on that slider early on.
Well, I mean, it's only 2 starts so far for
but I just mean like you're looking at the zone rate is like the strike rate is way up. I'm looking like at the locations of it. The locations of the slider
not good
are way off. Like he's throwing it way up in the zone more than he was last year. It's getting hit harder. Like that's kind of what I'm talking about, where if like, I don't think that's intentional. I don't think he's saying, hey, I'm going to locate my slider up more this year. It's just for whatever reason, the return of injury is just making the repeatability of the mechanics or the feel of the pitch a little bit off. And it's tough for him.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is tier 5, right? This is that Holly tier. And that's why George Kirby isn't that ace potential tier, right? I don't think that George Kirby is a big whiff guy, even though they've had some moments with the four-seamer. It's because the swing rate is so high. Also, he's throwing a lot of sinkers, and which is interesting. And what I did like was that he actually went upstairs with the four-seamer out of the zone. I was like, oh, this is what it's supposed to be. And I don't really want to judge him too hard for the first two starts back with that slider. I think actually last year we saw a lot of those sliders not act as those down and away whiff pitches. We saw them more in the zone, and that's actually one of my bigger criticisms of George Kirby. But I'm very willing to say, looking at the landscape of everybody involved here, that George Kirby certainly is one of those guys who should be better than the people in tier 6, 7, 8, etc. over time. Like, he's not all of a sudden like a 375, 120 whip guy or something. Like, no, he should have that low whip. Yeah, he may be mid threes ERA, and yeah, it might be just a strikeout inning, or maybe slightly lower than that. Fine, but he should be getting to 6 innings. He should be getting a fair number of wins. Like, that is your stable Holly pitcher.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with your ranking of him. It's not looking good right now, but it's 2 starts, and we have to assume that he gets back into the the feel of things a little bit as responds to the shoulder injury a little bit more. A couple interesting names in tier number 6, and we will get to those guys after this break. So this is our biggest tier so far. It starts with number 34, Ryan Pepiot, number 35, Kevin Gossman, number 36, Will Warren, number 37, Nick Pivetta, number 38, Nick Lodolo. You did it again with the double first names. Number 39, Ryan Weathers, number 40, Gavin Williams, number 41, Lucas Giolito, number 42, Andrew Abbott, number 43, Luis Castillo. What's this tier called? And why is it called that?
This one is called No Man's Sky because you got to stick with it. They're going to be great. And if you don't know the story of No Man's Sky, it was a game that came out that was hyped up to be this big thing, and it was very bad at first. And everyone was like, don't believe his lies, etc. This is a game that came out like a decade ago, and this team has been working on it for over a decade, giving all these free updates as they've continuously gotten better. And that's what I really see with this tier. I initially had Bryce Miller and Sawyer Gibson-Long in here because I do think of those two pitchers as arms who should be rostered now for the understanding of, hey, I don't really think they're going to be the worst things ever at the moment. And by the time August arrives in September, these are going to be guys very much in the rhythm and good. And that's how I see it with Ryan Weathers and Gavin Williams and Lucas Giolito, right? I see those as, look, there are these tools and we know are good. And yeah, it might be bumpy a bit here and there now, but it's very well worth your time versus those in 7, 8, 9, who a lot of those might not be on your team in a month and change. And I think these are the ones that are better bets to invest in moving forward.
Yeah. There are a lot of names in this list that I really like. I mean, really quickly, like you and I have talked to death about Gavin Williams, but the cutter is back. We talked about how the Dodgers start, right?
6 walks or so, but he had 74% strikes on his cutter. We're like, we don't care.
Yeah. The cutter was like the only thing that worked really well for him.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, this works for sure. And then we said that he would set up better in the start against the Angels, and that certainly worked. You talked about Will Warren extensively last week. Look, the Dodgers start was always going to be a little bit tough. He was on his heels from the start. I don't think you're going to begrudge a young pitcher too, for getting beat up a little bit by the Dodgers. But Luis Castillo is up a little bit here. You had some doubts about him. I know up 13 spots basically means he moves from tier 8 to tier 6, essentially. Right. But what are you seeing about Luis Castillo that's making you a little bit more interested than before?
Yeah, this is one of the hardest parts about rankings for me is I do grouping. So all of tier 7 are your more or safer, more quality start focused kind of guys. And if you're talking about potential to be a top 30 arm, then it's tier 6 or tier 8. So if I don't think that they belong in tier 8, then they have to go to tier 6, and there's no real in between. So you could even say like Castillo should be 52 or something along those lines instead of 43. And that seems very differently optically, but it's not really that much of a change in my view. Castillo is getting more slider whiffs again. Kind of. Sometimes yes, sometimes
Kind of.
no. His fastball velocity is better than it was. Um, Look, I have seen Castillo look worse a lot this year, more than I usually do. And the fact of the whiffs being gone a ton with the change and slider have had me more down than I usually am on Castillo. I also recognize he's actually done well recently. He has another good series of starts ahead. The old story of Castillo is that he gets better when it gets hot, and that is now.
Right.
So if that's the case, then fine. I have him at 43. But who I think is actually more interesting and enigmatic, and that I just couldn't say no to anymore, is number 42, Andrew Abbott. He's actually the face of the list this week.
Is he
And
really?
not a single person predicted that. I literally asked all
No.
the chat saying, tell me who the lead is, and no one said Andrew Abbott. And the funniest part about it is I don't really buy it. He has a 151 ERA, a 103 whip, and a 28% K rate, Eric. And I'm not saying to everybody that that's real, because then he'd be top 15, top 20. But I can't deny the fact that his four-seamer has been better than expected, that his changeup and curve are somewhat, or even though they go kind of in and out, it doesn't really make sense. It's working, and you're not dropping Andrew Abbott right now. So fine. Here he is. Is this right,
We
Eric?
we've never both of us have never fully bought in, but I at this point, like, you can't deny the results are the results. And so until he proves otherwise, like, you have to at least treat it like the vast majority of what he's doing is earned. There's nothing I see in the pitch mix. There's nothing I see when I watch him pitch where I'm like, oh yeah, this dude's a stud. But he was really good in the minors. He's been really good in big leagues. And so at some point he has proven that he can pitch and can get outs. And so maybe it's always going to be that the sum of the parts is better, or the whole is better than the sum of the parts, or whatever it is. But yeah, I don't begrudge you putting him this high.
You want to? Do you know which pitch of his has a swing strike rate above 15%?
It's not the slider.
Well, of course you wouldn't know, because there's none of them. And at the same time, the main three, that is the four-seamer, changeup, and sweeper, I'm not including the curveball here, all of them have had an ICR underneath 36. So that's all just so interesting to me, because on one side of it, you're not getting the whiffs, but you're missing the barrel enough that they're returning outs, because he has a -5 hit luck on both the changeup and four-seamer. And if you don't know hit luck, it is based on our understanding of the pitch itself, saying, look, this is a good pitch or a bad pitch, and then saying, great, generally this means that you have X amount of hits. And he has a -10 on those two pitches combined. If you're wondering, well, what's the average? It is 0. We like the majority of pitchers have a hit luck of like +2 or -3 by the end of the year. So the fact that right now Andrew Abbott has a -11 this early in the season, among everything, is a little bit okay. We understand that that's probably going to change. And he's been really good at suppressing home runs. It's essentially a half home run per 9 that we've seen in the past from Abbott, which, yeah, 92% left on base rate, all of those things, that's going to be different. But how far back does it go, really? And a 28% K rate is not just a complete anomaly. Yeah, it's going to get worse, but I don't know. I think you're going to hold on to Abbott at this point, and then we just kind of ride with it as long as it goes.
Well, we will talk about this later, where it's like who would you rather roster over him? Because we talked about this with another pitcher who's in a few tiers lower on this list. But it does kind of become that. It's like, sure, there are guys who are ranked lower who have more upside than Andrew Abbott. Tier 8 is littered with those guys.
Yep.
But those are also guys who may only throw 4 innings, or may give up 4 runs in 4 innings, or whatever it is. And so it's at some point there's a little bit more security in the fact that Andrew Abbott has continued to do this, and we can maybe trust that over, hey, I'd rather take some of these guys we'll get to later who are like quote unquote trendier, sexier. They have more swing and miss upside. But it's like, there's boring consistency in Andrew Abbott. He could be settling in to be that guy.
Do you think that Andrew Abbott has a higher or lower chance than Lucas Giolito to be ranked this high in August?
He has a higher chance. He's the safer bet too, because Giolito has the injury history and the current injuries that he's battled and
Assuming
the
health.
inconsistencies. Assuming health, I think Giolito has a better chance to be ranked high.
Yeah, that's kind of where my head is at, because when it comes to health and stuff, like, who knows? Abbott has not had a clean injury history either, to be fair.
Sure.
So that's kind of where I'm going with a lot of these, is like, right, we know that the whole thing kind of works with what these guys are doing, and then Abbott, it doesn't quite make as much sense, but I recognize it. But we've got boring stuff now in tier 7.
We do. Well, the boring stuff leads to the boring stuff. Tier number 7 starts with number 44, Matthew Boyd. Number 45, Bailey Ober. Number 46, Michael Waka. Number 47, David Peterson. Number 48, Matthew Liberatore. Number 49, Merrill Kelly. Number 50, Jamison Town. Number 51, Tyler Malley. Number 52, Zach Eflin. What's this tier called? Why is it called that?
This one is called, oh man, am I really going to do this? All right, fine. It's called Number Munchers. This was a game that I played in school that I was like the entertaining video game that was literally like, it was math problems and I needed to move this character over and munch on the correct answer. And I was like, oh, this of all the boring things that I could do at school, this is the one I want to do. So that is what this tier is. These are the Hollies. These are the ones that are better than the Tobys, but they're still kind of boring. They're not like the exciting ones that we hope will then turn into aces. These are the ones that are like, no, this is a step above the guy who I'm angry I want to drop, but they're not the elite of the elite.
Yeah, I get that. I don't know that game though.
Oh man, Number Crunchers? Maybe it's Number Crunchers.
I don't know.
It's just like looking like frog looking thing and with like weird legs and stuff. Don't worry about it.
I know Frogger, but I don't know.
I know you do. You're talking about NES games and stuff. Eric, we've got clearly a gap here.
I get that. I get it.
So
what I don't get is the listen, I know big red numbers are just moving from tier to tier, but you're down on David Peterson.
Yeah, I was too high on him last time.
Okay.
So I think that's really it. It's also just like how these are structured. Like I think the way that it's structured is you could say anyone from this tier could be above a guy in the tier ahead even if you want. But I do need to recognize that David Peterson hasn't been too consistent when it comes to his whip over the years. And that's still something that sits in my head. He did well actually over the weekend. I was happy with it. I don't want people to freak out about the negative or the red or anything like that about it. David Peterson's cool. I just think about it with Matthew Boyd, Ober, and Walk. I'm like, yeah, I think that Peterson has a little bit more of a risk in the whip department. And as far as the strikeout potential with Matthew Boyd, I like that more. Michael Waka has been far more consistent. And then Bailey Ober, we actually were talking about it before.
I was going to ask you to speak on that because you talked a little bit more about Bailey Ober during on the playback thing.
Yeah. I mean, there was a 3-inning rainout game that someone mentioned, and I missed that initially during the rant, and I appreciate that very much. Like, duh, of course, I remember that. But yeah, Bailey Ober has been kind of strange. His four-seamer and changeup are the pairing with the cutter and the slider not really being that good against right-handers. It makes me terrified, and he's not being efficient. He's not going 6 and 1 or 2 runs like the Bailey special from last year anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling worse and worse about Bailey Ober every time he pitches right now because I'm not feeling like he's a well-rounded. Like, yeah, I know you're going to go 6 innings. I'm just hoping you take down lefties as you should and then get away with stuff against right-handers. And it's annoying.
Do you see do you see something that stands out as like this is what has changed?
Yeah, the slider and the cutter are just worse. And the four-seamer also is at 90, hoping to be 91, while we saw 92 plus last year.
Okay, that's fair. And so maybe that those are things, I guess those are signs for us to watch for, to see if we can get those things back as we get Bailey Ober back to where he was at before. Liberatore, we kind of knew that like there was a little bit of a, hey, why is he succeeding as much as he is? Like, he has added secondary fastballs and not thrown the four seam as much, and he was throwing the changeup early in counts more often, but there wasn't like there wasn't a major difference. And so that seemed like some regression was inevitable, and we saw that against the Rangers where they got to him a little bit. I personally don't think that changes how I view Matthew Liberatore, because I always felt like he was over his skis a little bit in the
Yeah,
early stuff.
he's fine. I mean, I think lefties also get a little bit of a boost in the majors in general. So as long as he's throwing those four seamers effectively and having them paired with something else secondary wise against right-handers, then we're cool. Hopefully it's a changeup. Sometimes we just cutters get in there, the curveball as well, and the slider, and hopefully more of the slider than the cutter to lefties is a big thing there too. But he's fine, right? And I really want to keep in mind, like, Liberatore is around Merrill Kelly and Jameson Tyone and Tyler Malley and
Right.
Zach Eflin. Like,
And it
these
makes
are
so much
not.
sense to me.
Sorry?
That makes so much sense to me.
Right, exactly. Like, these are guys that we think, hey, cool, you can go 6 and you have a good chance of being productive for our 12 teamers for 5x5. And I often say too, people ask me things about quality starts and points. And it's really funny when people get upset about these rankings because this guy gets this many quality starts or he's really good for points leagues. And I'm like, well, cool. This is for a 5x5 wins league. And if you feel that these guys are better for that quality start and points league, awesome. This is where you then would push them up higher because it's that, right? So that does mean, though, hey, go 6 innings, you get a higher chance at a win. So there's a benefit, of course, of that. And Liberatore, yeah, it's an amazing defense behind him. The Cardinals' defense is phenomenal, and that helps him keep those down. That's the same reason why Merrill Kelly and Jameson Tyone are here. Right. Those are also fantastic defenses, the Cubs and the Diamondbacks. I actually think the Rangers are too. Tyler Malley, what's up? So Shazam, there's your 4 guys, all defense focused, right next to each other.
Yeah. And Waka, if I'm mistaken, well, I guess their second base.
The Royals can be good. I don't know.
Yeah. A little bit worse this year. Yeah. Now this tier is where I live, and that's why
this is the hardest part.
So some of my teams are struggling because these are all the guys where I'm like, give me all of them, and then you can't build a rotation that way. But tier 8 starts with number 53, Sawyer Gibson Long, number 54, Shane Baz, number 55, Zebby Matthews, number 56, Bryce Miller, number 57, Edward Cabrera, number 58, Mick Abel, number 59, Grant Holmes, number 60, Kyle Harrison, number 61, Landon Roop, number 62, Hayden Birdsong, number 63, Cade Horton. This is a party I want to be at, but what is this tier called, and why is it called that?
It's Super Smash Brothers, because you just see the long cast of characters that you all get excited about, but we don't actually really know who's going to be the S tier. Okay, who's going to be the actual one that is good to win games in Super Smash Brothers win?
Sure.
All right, and oh gosh, I am so torn about all of this. It is so difficult. I've gotten the question, Kyle Harrison, Landon Roop, and Birdsong, who do you want? So many times, and there are reasons for each of them.
Not Harrison.
You don't want Harrison? Oh, is he out of the rotation officially now?
It's not official, but it's
assumed.
Yes, that Verlander's coming back on Sunday.
Right, and that Harrison is the one that would go, right?
Yes, because Harrison starts Tuesday. So that Sunday start lines up with his spot.
And the thing is, it's so weird that Kyle Harrison, the guy who pitched all of last year in this rotation and is now pitching better than he was then, is going to be displaced by Justin Verlander, who hasn't been very good, Hayden Birdsong and Landon Roop, who are less experienced than Harrison. But I get it, because Birdsong just did well over the weekend. Landon Roop doesn't seem like he's going to get displaced.
Yeah.
This is why, like, I think Kyle Harrison is the best pitcher of the 3. That's the thing. That's why I still have him above Roop and Birdsong. But if he's out of the rotation, he's out of the rotation. Like, that's the wart. With Landon Roop, it's about, okay, you saw the changeup take a step forward. That's good, but you still don't have the sinker curve command consistent each start. Sometimes we get this, sometimes we get that, and it's really frustrating.
Yeah.
And it does mean that there's more volatility of that shag rug, the young man's floor, for Landon Roop. And then there's Hayden Birdsong, and I don't know, guys, just watch a game of Hayden Birdsong. Anyone who doesn't understand the pushback that I have of Hayden Birdsong, sit through an entire start and really ask yourself, is he commanding this at bat or not? Is he actually doing the things he wants to do? Are these good locations for the breaking balls that he intends to do?
Right.
And it is so boring. I lose attention because I just get frustrated. My ADHD mind just goes, I don't want to watch this anymore. But he's gotten results, and that's cool. I will say this. What happens if Landon Roop or Hayden Birdsong have a terrible game this week? Do you think that they stay in the rotation and Harrison goes away?
That's a good question. I guess it would, they could start Verlander Sunday if they wanted to, and then push Harrison a day or two and keep him. I guess there's a little bit of it depends on. I mean, I think also Landon Roop's last start was iffy enough against the Tigers. Like, it was fine, but the fifth inning was rough, and he had some homer problems early. So, like, if he were to implode, like, could they say, hey, you were a reliever for us last year, and maybe it makes some sense to keep you in a long relief role? I could see it. It's not out of the realm of possibility for sure.
Not to mention innings limits you would think would be in place for both Roop and Birdsong.
Yeah.
And Harrison actually later start. That's a way to slow down those two guys as well. I'm just making things as devil's advocate because I think that ultimately it will be Harrison out the way that it's being set up right now. That makes the most sense, but it's not completely concrete. Yeah. How would you rank those three?
I think playing devil's advocate with that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Where would you rank them? How would you rank the three?
I would rank them Roop, Birdsong, Harrison, only because I think that Harrison is out of the rotation, not because of talent.
Yeah, I probably am going to do that before this gets published, because you're right. Harrison, if he's leaving in a week, then like that shouldn't be the case here. But oh gosh, would you have Cade Horton above the three of them?
It's so interesting because, like, I do like that Horton is like leaning into the curve more and the changeup more and adding the sink, like all the depth of the pitch mix that we heard he had in the minor leagues, but didn't see in the first start. But I've yet to see a start of his at the big league level where I feel like he dominates. And so I have a little bit of like I like what you're doing. I like that we're showing all the pitches. Every now and then each pitch looks really good, but I haven't seen a full outing where I'm like, oh, this guy he's a stud.
Right.
But he looks like the last update on Imanaga, it sounds like Horton has another month before they have to pull somebody from the rotation. And so
I think that'll be Ben Brown before
Cade Horton. I think so too, but I guess we'd see in a month. But anyway, I guess that's saying like my heart wants to rank Horton over them, but my head says that's probably irrational.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about Cade Horton is that his arsenal does speak to Holly. Doesn't speak to the overwhelming strikeout ability of Kyle Harrison or Rupert Birdsong. Mm-hmm. It speaks more to, cool, you can go 6 innings consistently because it's a cut 4-seamer. And it's a good curveball, but it does really feel like he should be getting a lot of good weak contact and pitching more efficiently than the other three. And that's what I like about it. You get a good cut fastball with that defense behind him and good offense supporting as well. It just feels safer, and is why I might consider doing that move too. But I want to actually shift to the first half of this tier, because how should I be doing this? Like, Sawyer Gipson-Long, I'm such a fan. I actually, if you guys don't remember, I put out this tweet in like February.
You did, February. Yeah.
And I said, all right, I've got a guy who is my number one sleeper. And there were really two. It was Dustin May was one, because he was getting drafted like 600 at the time or something. And then Sawyer Gipson-Long was the other one. And everyone, I put in the Discord, and people were saying, well, he's hurt. I'm like, I know, but if you draft him, he'll be back by June. and he has 99th percentile extension. He has legitimate drop on all of his pitches, and also a flat attack angle for the four seamer to utilize upstairs. It is an arsenal that speaks to efficiency and just consistent production, essentially. And he showed that in those 4 starts that we did see of him actually being able to command those pitches down. I really do feel like I do about Sawyer Gipson-Long with, say, Gavin Williams and Lucas Giolito and friends of, you give me Sawyer Gipson-Long now and you will be very happy over the next 4 months that you have this guy on your team. However, Eric is the voice of reason. And tell me why that was a silly idea to put him into tier 6.
I just said I have corrected I've needed to recalibrate my desire to put exciting pitchers into my lineup who are coming fresh off of an extended absence. And, I've always kind of said, well, I'm anticipating there's going to be some inconsistency, but we know the highs are probably going to be pretty high. And I'd rather keep them on my roster because I think the upside is great. And if it clicks, like, all those things you said about, like, if it clicks for Sawyer Gipson-Long, what the type of pitcher he is. I just think we've seen enough of a track record that these guys who have missed full seasons and are getting back into games now, right? So this is what I was alluding to before when I talked about how we saw Robbie Ray pitch for a couple months last year at the big league level, that Sawyer Gipson-Long is going to have bumps, some ups and downs. There's going to be peaks and valleys, however you want to phrase it. Like, there is going to be a lot of time for adjustment, and maybe it's a prolonged, like, 2-month thing that Sandy Alcantara is going through, or maybe it's a 1-month thing, or whatever, or maybe it's like a Lucas Giolito thing where 2 starts are great, 1 start is awful. 1 start is great, the next start is awful. And that is really difficult to roster because you kind of don't know when the good or the bad start is going to come.
Decision making is difficult. That's one of the things I value so much.
And so the Sawyer Gipson-Long thing is like, first of all, remember that he should still be rehabbing. Like, if Jackson Jobe was not hurt, Sawyer Gipson-Long would still be making rehab starts.
Right. He only threw about 53 pitches or so through 5 innings.
He is currently up because they had a rotation spot and he was stretched out enough that they felt like he could give them maybe 5 innings and be better than what they would get from piecing it together with a bullpen game or whatever. It may be 2-3 more starts before we see like a fully stretched out Sawyer Gipson-Long. So then you're also playing that game of like, there's a guy who hasn't pitched in a year who also isn't fully ramped up. And so if we're only getting 5 as the max and 1 or 2 of those innings is just mired with inconsistency, what's the real upside there?
Yeah, sure.
And so I'm going to pass on him for right now. And I also am passing on him for right now, acknowledging that he could come out and look great, and then I won't have the opportunity to get him again. And in August, I could be saying, man, if I had only been more aggressive on Sawyer Gipson-Long.
So,
and I just think you have to roll the dice on that.
Yeah. So, and I'm happy that you convinced me out of tier 6 there. And here at 53, it makes the most sense. Just because you have tier 7, if you need the production, you got it. Go get it. Right? That's what tier 7 is. And to me, I'm very much a believer of, again, I watched that start, or at least saw the data of that one. Extension is still very much there. He's gained the movement that we want to see. Location's not really the best thing ever. A lot of hittable sinkers down, not out of the zone, not really neck beer to this. Sliders got whiffs, so did the changeup a little bit, but like they didn't look like as if they should have, based on when they were located. And also his velocity did dip to 90 miles per hour come the 5th in change. So keep in mind that's like 92 is what we expect from Sawyer Gipson-Long, something like that, 91.8 or whatever. And yeah, this might take a start or 2 to get going. I am saying, look, we're talking about this stuff in the same tier as Mick Abel and Grant Holmes and Landon Roop and whatnot. And I think you will be sad not to have him in like a week or two.
Maybe.
And that's how I view him. And also, I'm breaking in the chance that maybe you don't want to have him then. I do think that the stuff itself does speak to a higher floor initially than at least what his approach is, how he does it. It's not like one of those guys that just, here's the glove, go throw it somewhere or whatever. The way his pitches move, it's always, we even saw that in 2023. We saw that even in the rehab starts. These pitches induce outs very effectively. As he goes down, it's no surprise with the same extension that he had before. So that is kind of the reason I think I'm a little bit more aggressive on him, because I don't think it will be that bad out of the gate after the first start or two, because I don't want to start him, even though it's the White Sox. Yeah, he's not going to be throwing more than 65 pitches. It's just not worth the chance there. But you might see over 70 by the second one. And we've seen guys like even like Drew Rasmussen throw 77 pitches to go through 6. And I don't think that Zoe Gibson-Long is too far away from that.
Yeah, I guess based on your logic, I don't mind him being in this tier. There's some guys in the tier I would have above him, but again, we're talking about
who would that
the
be?
Same tier. Yeah, I can tell you who that would be, but I'll tell you right after this break. The guy I would have above him is a guy I picked up in a lot of leagues over this weekend, because the guy I wrote about on Wednesday in my starting pitcher news column, it's Edward Cabrera.
Oh,
and to me, it's also like
so much. Sorry.
Edward Cabrera is the other end of like a lesson I've learned, which is like some of these guys are never going to hit, and Edward Cabrera may never put it together. Totally possible. But he's also 27 years old. So he's not really that old, but he is old enough that he has had experience at the big league level to try to learn how to get outs at the big league level. A few like huge changes for him this year. He lowered his arm slot by 6 degrees, which is not a small change.
That is a lot. Yeah.
That's a big change. That has led to way more horizontal, more arm side run on his sinker, which is also relevant because the sinker is now his most used fastball.
And it's a strike pitch. Let's go.
And it's a strike pitch. The lower arm angle has also led to kind of like a loopier movement profile on the curveball, but he has really leaned into the curveball as a 2-strike pitch to lefties, and the swinging strike rate on that pitch to lefties has jumped. And so he is then kind of backed off the slider to lefties and is really leaning in on the slider to righties, especially as a whiff pitch. So now he has a whiff pitch with good swinging strike rates to hitters of both handedness, a fastball that he can command 4 strikes that's kind of eating up righties a little bit right now. And I don't love that his primary fastball to lefties is a sinker, but if this new mix allows Edward Cabrera to consistently throw strikes and be really good versus righties and be kind of like against lefties, that's a much better version of Edward Cabrera than any version of Edward Cabrera we've gotten. And when I talked to Eno on Rates and Barrels, he put in the stuff plus, location plus, all that for Cabrera from May 1st on, 108 location plus.
Hey,
for Edward Cabrera.
That's pretty cool.
So if you're getting Edward Cabrera with above average location, or even kind of like average location, to me, like that's, hey, here's a pitcher I've been dreaming on for years who we kind of kept saying he has the ability to do this, he has the ability to do that, and it never hit. And maybe it's kind of like third time's the charm. Maybe, we're seeing a better version of Edward Cabrera. And then there's the other thing in the back of my head, which isn't why I picked him up. I picked him up because you don't have to spend a lot of money to get Edward Cabrera in your leagues right now, because 90% of your leagues have been burned by Edward Cabrera before and nobody wants to do it anymore. So I'll take a gamble and see what happens. Also, the start against the Rays this week is not one that intimidates me at all. But the Marlins, I think we're really hoping to trade Sandy Alcantara at the deadline. And I don't really know that there's going to be a lot of trade value in Sandy Alcantara. But if you get 3 more good starts from Edward Cabrera, or another good month of starts from Edward Cabrera, and then all of a sudden Edward Cabrera could be the trade piece that the Marlins have, and then you're trading Edward Cabrera to a contender and getting him off the Marlins, and then all of a sudden you might have a pretty interesting pitcher in the second half of the season.
Oh man, that's a fun one. I hadn't really considered that one yet because I do feel like teams are treating Sandy Alcantara like the Astros did Yusei Kikuchi last year. And they still, that was Jake Bloss and their best hitter, Loperfido or whatever.
Yeah.
And I feel like Sandy will still get something significant at the deadline. But you're right. If Eric Cabrera is doing this, I mean, I see a lot of elements of Sandy here. You have the velocity there. You have the hard changeup. You have now the increase of the slider focus now to right-handers, which is cool. The sinker can be the right-handed strike pitch. The changeup at 96 can be the left-handed strike pitch, right?
Mm-hmm.
I watched all of his last start, and it really came away with two things for Eric Cabrera. One, dang, this looks fun. This is much more in control with everything that he's doing. I've seen a lot of him over the years, and so many times it's just like, you throw this and it's just a big waste pitch or whatever. Very much more centered and consistent. Two, the fastballs are still hittable, and it drives me nuts.
Yeah.
and then really that's one of the things that's just consistent with the Marlins pitchers, like him and Alcantara and was Luzardo. Like these fastballs are just hittable. It was a bit with Lopez too back when he was a Marlin, and it bothers me a lot. I have Cabrera here and I wanted him higher, and also I couldn't because we have actually seen Eric Cabrera look good in the past.
Yeah.
It's not like he's always been just bad. It's we see these mini little stretches of him actually looking like this, and then it goes away. And we've also seen the four seamer dip away for a moment for something really good or whatever. I want to believe I'm on the same page as you. I feel like this is the best version, but it's still not totally believable yet. And it kind of feels to me, it's really funny. This might be the peak of Eric Cabrera and the nadir of Sawyer Gibson Long, right? We might be like at this moment of wondering if one is the other.
Yeah.
And really, honestly, we could have just spent this entire podcast just talking about tier 8 because
I feel
like you're making all of your choices right now. Even there's like Mick Abel,
But these are I think these are the ones that are interesting because you kind of know the good pitchers are the good pitchers, the streamers are the streamers.
Yeah.
When you can hit on a guys from this list, like we didn't even talk about Zebby Matthews went 7 innings. His last
Zebby Matthews looks like a Holly who throws 97.
If
like what?
Right. If you start getting 7 innings of Zebby Matthews, or if you get Edward Cabrera, who's put command together, or if Kyle Harrison stays in the rotation and you get him, like those are the pitchers who then round out your rotation in fantasy and remove all of your like weak components and all of a sudden make your rotation that much deeper if you can hit on these guys. So these are the guys I think are really interesting. And I would just say we've seen this version of Edward Cabrera before where he pitches well, but it has been 27% four seam, 28% four seam, 39% four seam.
Yeah, this sinker is definitely much better.
12% four seam. That sinker does have a sub 3% swinging strike rate to righties.
That's not going to work there. No,
but it's
that's the thing. You have the slider, you have the curve, you have the change to do that.
It's a 40% ICR, and the zone rates are great. The slider has a 21% swinging strike rate to righties. Like there are pitches that work, and we'll see how it goes. But Mick Abel. How long is Mick Abel in the rotation?
Well, it's going to be I love Mick Abel. But I was so impressed with his start. I did the SB Reddit, the Mick Abel guy, because thank you so much, 90s movies. And I love this. It was 97 with 2 good secondaries. Like what? I don't know how long he's up, right? Because of Nola. And it could just be a case where he goes away right after. The very good news I have is that Taijuan Walker is not returning to the rotation again. The Walker saga is done.
It's over.
So it's going to be Mick Abel with also Andrew Painter coming up after the All-Star break is what was clarified this morning. And that means we've got a good 6-7 weeks now of Mick Abel as the number 6, right? So this could be something where he makes a start now, and then they decide, you know what, let's just give it one more week and see if everything's okay instead of putting him down and just giving everyone an extra day of rest or whatever. And he could just stick around, and definitely if something else gets figured out. Because remember, we were saying about Sawyer Gibson Long, well, how is he going to finish the rotation? What's going to happen? Things just happen.
Yeah.
It just
It's true.
happens.
Yeah, and yes, and Mick Abel is worth holding on to that one. You got Bryce Miller in here, who we chatted
Oh yeah,
about
what do we do?
before, where we're
He's got
like,
what sounds like a bone spur in his
he,
elbow.
yeah, he said they identified what it is that I need to fix, but I don't think I can fix it this year without missing the rest of the year.
What?
And then somebody responded to me on Twitter, and they were like, "This is you, Darvish, with the bone spur, isn't it?" And then 2 days later, it was like, "Oh, Bryce Miller has a bone spur." And so he's going to pitch with it for the rest of the season until he can have surgery and get it removed. And so I don't know. I mean, maybe he'll pitch through it and pitch fine. It doesn't fill me with confidence.
No, it doesn't. And I initially had him higher because like, well, it's Bryce Miller, but I'm also just like, I don't want to. There's a part of me that right now I haven't finalized this completely. I do this podcast with Eric a lot before the list is published, and it's always really helpful for me because Eric's obviously a voice of reason. So I'm thinking right now that I'm probably going to have Zebby and Cabrera and Abel all over Bryce Miller. I'm probably going to move Shane Baz underneath those guys too, above Bryce Miller. Because with Baz, I think he actually is turning a corner, and his stuff is great. The curve is still really good. The four seamer is at 99 and everything. In the last two starts, it looks like whatever information he was giving has been going away. But I do think there is something lacking here, which is a really good third reliable pitch. And my gosh, he's left 4 home runs on the slider in like the last 36 he's thrown, which is insane. And he's allowed the same amount of home runs the last like 400 of other pitches he's thrown. I just feel like he needs that one extra thing, and all of a sudden Baz soars. But I understand that there isn't. That's me kind of wish casting a little bit. Grant Holmes is looking really good with his slider and just hoping that the cutter and the curve return. I mean, all of these are like, yeah, these should all be really good. And then you get to tier 9, Eric. And tier 9 is just like, sure, whatever.
Yes. And that starts with number 64, Clark Schmidt. Number 65, Casey Mize. Number 66, Chris Paddock. Number 67, Griffin Canning. Number 68, Brandon Pfaadt, who continues to fall since you ranked him in like the top 30s, just every week, just down.
Okay. It was top 40 inside of that Holly tier. Okay. And I was like, you know what? Never mind. Never mind. Because the main thing about that was, I mean, actually, I'll tell you what the name of this tier is right now. It's your boy Assassin's Creed. Okay. Because, it's always around a lot of people liking stuff, but a lot of times you're just like, oh man, like another repetitive, same game, same kind of thing, whatever. If you like that, go ahead. That is how I feel about these guys a bit. And with Pfaadt, what I liked about him was that the curve and the change were really good against lefties. And I really should have been more vocal about this because the Nationals are not a good offense, but they are left-handed only, and they are better against right-handers. And Brandon Pfaadt's biggest weakness has been left-handers, but it was cured right at the curveball. But the curveball's been gone for like 2-3 starts now. Ever since I put him as the main face of the list, he's now been like, cool, my curveball's gone now. So it's just been the changeup, and he's been getting beat up because of that. And I should have realized the Nationals might have a decent chance of beating him up, and that's what happened. Griffin Canning takes a fall, even though there was a rainy game. It's just the schedule is still going to be bad. And I just look at all this. I'm like, I can't just sit here and say that Griffin Canning is now great. I'm sorry. He's just not. And I would rather go for Mick Abel than Griffin Canning. I'm sorry.
I get it. And also look, you have Paul Blackburn in the rotation right now because they're doing a 6-man rotation. And that's just schedule related. But Blackburn was signed to be a starter. There's no lock that he could push Canning. You have Sean Manaea working his way back. You have Frankie Montas working his way back. Montas is much closer than Manaea right now, but there's no guarantee that Canning remains in the rotation if he has another couple bad starts. There are enough other pitchers coming, even if it's not Blackburn that pushes him. I'm just saying that the Mets rotation is getting some of their pieces back. I don't think their plan was to have Griffin Canning as one of their top 5. I think if it worked out, it was great, but he was starting pitching depth.
That's kind of like the other side of town with Cookie Carrasco doing decent things, and now Ryan Yarbrough, but Tyler McGill, I do want to mention. Tyler McGill is probably, if the Mets had to say one guy needs to go right now, it would be him. But who knows? Maybe he has a good start and Canning keeps doing poorly. That's a good point.
Well, we've been saying for years McGill would be a really good reliever. And maybe we'll get there. Who knows? Clark Schmidt, still in on Clark Schmidt. The Coors start wasn't great, but whatever. I don't think you're really worried about that. He's looked really good otherwise. And Chris Paddock, respect to Chris Paddock, man.
Seriously.
And the last outing, like I watched it, and it was a good. It wasn't like it was a good, legitimately good outing. Like
Right.
94 at the top of the zone, change ups below the zone. Like it worked.
Well, the slider's new. The slider is more of a cut slider now. Like 87, 88, not like 85, with less drop and like less movement, but harder. And I think it lets him spot it a little bit better. And that's good. I'll take that from Chris Paddock. I remember actually when he first came up, he had like this 91 mile per hour cutter. Maybe it was 89. I call it the golden pitch. I got him all these strikes and everything. Yeah. I want that back. I don't need the big whiffable slider. I just need that.
Yeah,
so
hopefully we see it. It has worked. So yeah, props to him.
Oh man, I take that back. By the way, I'm thinking of Casey Mize for that slider. By the way, he had the golden one, but Paddock's now trying to get that one.
Paddock was the curve.
Paddock had the curve. Mize new slider. Yay.
Yeah, Paddock had the curve with the change.
I've always confused these two, and I'm surprised that no one else.
And everybody wanted Paddock to lean more into the curve, and he could never find the third pitch, and all of that. Tier number 10 starts with number 69, Lance McCullers, number 70, Dustin May, number 71, Tanner Bybee, number 72, Zach Gallen. What's this tier called, and why is it called that?
Oh my gosh. All right, this is your cyberpunk tier because you're like, just please be good. Just please be good. Like, people are really in on this and they see these names like, oh man, please be good. But you don't really know if you're going to get it there or not. And this is the hipster tier too. You have McCullers going 12 strikeouts. That's awesome. I don't know if he's going to throw enough strikes consistently, but you got to do it against the Pirates and good luck. And then you have Dustin May, who is leaning a little bit more in the cutter, and I'm more encouraged. It's just not a great schedule, and it's not a guarantee that you're going to like it at the end of the tunnel, essentially. Tanner Bybee, who I don't know, man. And Zach Gallen, who is trying to figure things out on a given day. I actually think he pitched better than the Lions suggested last time, but it's just frustrating. And we're at this point where there are so many, the landscape always changes. And right now we're seeing more that are stabilizing as like, cool, we know what you are and this is cool. Mm. And we're also seeing more interesting names changing themselves for the better and new ones coming up, and there are things to go and chase. But then you have like Tanner Bybee and Zach Gallen, who are just not finding that groove whatsoever. And they are headache-inducing pitchers stifling the entire roster.
Yep. Yeah, this tier is, I'm going to avoid this tier. Dustin May, strikeouts are back, I guess, or there for the first time. Who knows? Dustin May. Tier number 11 starts at number 73, Jack Leiter. Number 74, Shane Smith. Number 75, Ben Kasparius, who's getting a spot start this week against the Cardinals. Number 76, Taj Bradley. Number 77, Ryan Nelson, who we are assuming is in the rotation following the Corbin Burns injury. Yes. We have not heard the MRI results on Corbin Burns. Number 78, Noah Cameron, who we know gets at least one more start this week, also against the Cardinals, before probably losing his rotation spot, ? Yeah. Number 79, Tyler McGill. What's this tier called? Why is it called that?
This one is called, no, I don't want to call it that. I like so many random things in my head. I'm just like, this is terrible. Let's go with the StarCraft tier, because you have to be very tactful in this real-time strategy of figuring out who is on your team and who is not. Because Ben Kasparius, it's a spot start. We do like him as a starter. Are they going to lean into this if Ken Kershaw just isn't good enough? If like Landon Knack doesn't have that same start again like he did against the Yankees?
Maybe. Hey, I don't know. Emmett Sheehan through 3 innings in AAA.
Oh my gosh. It's like the Dodgers have so much depth and so little depth at the same time. It's pretty funny. Yeah. And then you have Ryan Nelson, who is still missing a really good number 2 pitch. He's trying to change his secondary slightly, but the fastball's still really good. So I like that. Noah Cameron hopefully kicks out Lorenzen, let's be honest. But at the same time, he has been very fortunate a bit with his matchups to get the results that he has had. And I'm not going to hold on tightly there. And Jack Leiter, he looked better in his last one. He looked a lot more taking the right step, but you just don't know.
Yeah.
We just don't know.
I will say and Ryan Nelson, we chatted about this before we started. Ellie De La Cruz is going on the bereavement list Wednesday following their game on Wednesday. So for that series between the Reds and the Diamondbacks in Cincinnati, there will be no Ellie De La Cruz. I believe that's Zach Gallen and Ryan Nelson are both starting in that series. So something to consider. You probably don't want to use Ryan Nelson in Cincinnati, but in Cincinnati against a Reds lineup without Elly De La Cruz might be a little bit more enticing to you. And then Ben Kasparius, I spoke to him when he was here in New York. And there's an article I put up on NBC Sports Roto World where I talked to him about, the changes he's made this year, and specifically asked him, one of the things that I had noticed was that he was not going inside to righties. And I specifically asked him about pitch changes that he would make had he moved to the starting rotation. And he basically just said, yes, I would go inside more to righties. Like, you have to find a way to attack inside, or at least show inside, so you can set up the stuff that attacks away. But he kind of talked in the article I posted about things that he would do differently as a starter. And I just think that's interesting, because if he does transition into that role, some of those, like, hey, this might not work, I think we're going to see him approach things differently as a starter, which he pretty directly said, rather than if he knew he only had to face everybody once.
Right. Oh man, that'll be fun. But yeah, I just double checked it because I get them all confused all the time. Right. Chris Paddock does have a new slider now. Okay. And he threw it more than the curveball in Sunday's games. And 17 times versus 15. It's a cutter focus one at a 41% CSW. I'm kind of intrigued by that.
Yeah, that's worth looking into for sure. Mm-hmm. I might look into it this week. Now you've piqued my interest.
There you go. Yeah, always, of course. Look out for Eric's article about pitch mix changes on NBC.
Look out for it Wednesdays. NBC Sports Roto World. I'll tweet it out. Number 12 starts with number 80 Tomoyuki Sugano, number 81 Michael Soroka, number 82 Walker Buehler, number 83 Jose Barrios, of course, number 83 Jose Soriano, number 84 Jose Barrios, because you had to double the first names again. Number 85 Nick Martinez.
Barrios.
Number 86, Brady Singer. What's the tier called? Why is it called that?
Just kidding. It's whatever game is in your Game Boy, because it's just like, it is a game, and so you're going to play it. You did it as a kid. That became your favorite game because it was the one you had.
Tetris. Yeah, there's nothing really here for me. I have always been a sucker for Jose Soriano, and I will want to believe there's nothing wrong with your ranking of him, but he still stands out to me as a name where I'm like, there's something, I just don't love how you're utilizing your pitch mix this year, but whatever. Well,
he's a piece. Poor execution, awesome stuff.
Yeah. Buehler, same thing. It has not come together for Buehler this way I had thought it might. But what are you gonna do? Mm-hmm. Number 13. Speaking of not coming together, number 87, Sandy Alcantara. Number 88, Ben Brown. Number 89, Luis L. Ortiz. And number 90, Mitch Keller. What's this tier called? Why is it called that?
This is that point and click adventure game that you played where you just get stuck for like 2 hours and you go, what do I do? Yeah. I mean, look, Sandy Alcantara, I get it. He gets Rocky Road, guys.
I'm starting it.
I know, right? Right.
I started him in a few places this week. And I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing, but we're going to give it a shot. It's like maybe against historically the worst team ever.
Drop him now. But then I was like, oh, wait, hold on. It's Rocky Road.
Yeah. If I can't start him against the worst team ever, we got problems.
Yeah. Oh, man. This is Ben Brown. And I got a comment that I'm not giving enough love to Ben Brown for doing well against the Reds carpet. Well, I mean, he didn't do well in Cincinnati before that. Yeah. And he's exactly the same guy he's always been. I feel like I am that coach. He is who we thought they were. Okay.
Right. I posted something in his terrible 2-start week where I reposted the Mean Girls thing. That's just like, stop trying to make fetch happen.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen.
Ben Brown.
And I think that's Ben Brown as a starter. I think he'll be a very good high leverage late inning reliever.
Right. He is a worse Tyler Glasnow before the slider. Think about it that way. And he can't learn a slider. He is not a supinator. Yeah. So, yeah. No, it's just not going to happen. Luis Ortiz gets whiffs. That's cool, but like whatever. And look, Mitch Keller is here because if you need it for like a 6-inning quality start, fine. But get this. His home run to fly ball rate is cut in half while he still has a 1.3 whip and a 20% K rate.
Mhm.
It's a 3.66 ERA, which is clearly the anomaly of this. I get it. Like some random starts, Mitch Keller will go like 6 innings and 200 runs, and you're like, awesome. I just risk everything for a 3 ERA. And do what you want, guys. I just don't really think he should be considered in 12 teamers.
I get it. That works for me. We're going to talk about tier number 14 because there's somebody I'm excited about here and another name that should be here that's not here. Tier number 14 starts at number 91, Ryan Yarbrough. Number 92, Chad Patrick. Number 93, Colin Ray. Number 94, Zach Littell. Number 95, Davis Martin. Number 96, Cade Povich. Number 97, Adrian Hauser. Number 98, Max Meyer. Number 99, Jake Irvin. Number 100, Brian Bayo. What's this tier called? Why is it called that?
This is called Candy Crush, not Sandy Crush. I know, because it's the game that a lot of people play in between things. So it's the streaming picks here. It's just like the momentary one moment. I just need something right now.
But Ryan Yarbrough has been very good for the whole month, Nick.
3 starts, yes.
Yeah. But listen, it is interesting to me.
I mean, it's absolutely interesting to me. I'm watching this going, oh my gosh, the found money here is insane. The Friday Pirates.
I just wonder why it's not a tier 12.
I mean, sure, if you want to do that, but I just feel like this is a Vargas rule. Like you just do that. I mean, sure, I have no problem raising him up, but does anyone listening right now feel like this is going to be something on your teams July 1st? No. And I feel like in tier 12, Sugano probably will be.
Maybe. I guess maybe.
Sure. That's the only reason why I'm like, all right, do it right now. Sure. This is exactly what the streaming is for. It's like 1-2 starts. Like Chad Patrick, honestly, the cutter's cool, but might go like 4.2 innings. All right. Zach Littell just went 9 innings and you go, oh my gosh, come on. Well, it was a 1.22 whip in those 9 innings with a 3 ERA. Like that is what you're chasing, which isn't that great. Adrian Hauser, it's 95 on the fastball, not 93, and he has elite extension. And it's just, wait a second, I can see how that can maybe get you a win, or it's the White Sox, a quality start. And then the last 3 are Max Meyer, Jake Irvin, and Brian Bayo. Look, Meyer gets Rocky Road, and Irvin sometimes goes in and out of being good. And it's your boy Brian Bayo. I was just like, all right, whatever. Maybe this is the week.
That was my thing. You have the wrong Red Sox pitcher on this list.
It's not Richard Fitz. He threw 44 pitches.
Alex Cora said he's up to 80 pitches tonight.
What?
Yep.
All right, I'll replace him.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank
80
you.
pitches.
80 pitches after throwing 44 the last time?
75 to 80 pitches is his limit for tonight.
All right, then I'm actually probably going to have him in tier 11. So
they asked Cora before the game.
So he's going to be in that like Noah Cameron, Tyler McGill tier.
I think that makes sense because if he's 75, 80 now, then he's pretty much fully stretched out for the next
you just
start.
Consider it like whatever. It's one. Think if he didn't have that start yesterday, like
I wish I had known that because I would have been more aggressive picking him up in leagues because he had only thrown 3 innings the last start. And so I was like, okay, he's going to be at like 60 pitches this start.
Yeah. I was just like,
75 the next and whatever.
Gonna wait on this.
But yeah, 75 to 80 pitches tonight for Richard Fitz.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Hopefully it goes well.
Yeah.
Now keep in mind that it's the Angels tonight, and then this is Monday, so you're listening to this probably Tuesday. Sorry. He'll get the Yankees next.
Yeah.
You probably don't want that. But we'll see. I mean, I think I'll be fine pushing him in the next tier, and that's fine.
I think we've kind of both accepted. I've accepted. I think you probably agreed on this before, but like, I'd rather have Richard Fitz right now than Brian Bayo in a fantasy league. And And if Fitz is in the rotation now, and he is in the rotation now, he's on the list over Bayo for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, would you have him over Walker Buehler?
No. Well, but Buehler, I mean, I guess depends. If you're looking at just this week, doesn't Buehler just get the Yankees?
Well, I mean, it's not just this week, though. Buehler's kind of is in that Toby tier is the thing.
I think I might rather have Fitz over the course of the season than Buehler. I guess the only downside is the Red Sox aren't taking Buehler out of the rotation unless he gets hurt. Like they signed him to a 1-year contract. They're going to pitch him. Fitz, is a little bit more potentially in their future plans. And so they may limit some innings a little bit because he actually threw 116 last year and he threw 152 and 2/3 in 2023. So there should be no innings restrictions on Fitz at all.
Yeah, no, not at all.
So yeah, I think I'd rather have Fitz. Think.
Cool, because that's what I did. That's what tier 11 is.
Yeah, I think I would.
It's already in there. It's in the book.
Boom.
Done. Is that it? Did we finish?
That's it. We finished.
Oh my god,
we made it.
Woo!
We did it.
Yeah. Wow. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. We went much longer than we should have because you got to get out of here.
I do.
But Eric, thanks so much for taking this time with us.
Nick, thanks for taking this time with me to talk about pitching. I'm Eric Samulski, the Pelican.
I'm Nick Pollack, the Lion.
And I'm gonna go fire up some video games real quick, actually. Candy Crush.